has a problem with brothers in Qatar, which is that they have helped us in sorting out problems with the West in exchange for giving them investment opportunities. These opportunities have not been agreed for administrative reasons. They were also upset because President Gaddafi attacked the presence of the American base in the country.
Libyan Colonel Naji Abu Rous also addressed the press conference. He listed the government breakdown of deaths since the unrest began.
Bayda Hospital, 10 civilians, 36 military and police. Batnan, 4 civilians. The total number of civilians, 189. Military, 111. Total number, 300. We ask all diplomats in the great republics to visit all the sites which Arab and international media have claimed have been subject to airstrikes and targeting of citizens.
Well, as we've seen, Muammar Gaddafi showing no sign that he's prepared to go. But protesters are still demanding he vacates his office. Lawrence Lee wraps up the events in Libya so far.
Having kept mostly silent for day after day, the Libyan leader was suddenly, astonishingly, not short of words on the crisis in his country. In an address which will no doubt be described as rambling by many commentators, he variously blamed the media, America, Britain, Italy, and hallucinogenic drugs forced on young protesters for causing the trouble in his country. It was a speech long on emotion, and he tried his hardest to appeal to anti-colonialist sentiment in Libya. But behind all the anger, there seemed to be one key message. He had created Libya. He would never leave.
I will not leave the country, and I will die as a martyr at the end.
All the same, the pressure on him is now immense. Several major cities across Libya under the control of the opposition. If anything, the violence meted out to the protesters seems to have been a tactical mistake by Gaddafi's regime, simply hardening the popular resolve. There have been many who've said there's no point backing down now because they'd simply be killed anyway. Images of the dead continue to surface, many extremely gruesome, some people torn limb from limb, adding to allegations that the military haven't only been using gunfire, but artillery as well.
We saw bodies divided in 3-4 parts. We saw only legs and only hands. And we saw really very bad kind of injuries here.
It's also ironic that Gaddafi, who for decades has styled himself as a saviour of the pan-Arab world, appears now so reviled across the region. From Dubai to Baghdad, ordinary Arabs have been expressing solidarity with the uprising, saying they hope the people bring their leader down.
I hope they rip him apart in the Green Square. I hope all the Libyan people get him and join together.
Libyan people have achieved the impossible, and Libya is about to get rid of this schizophrenic dictator. People are stronger than the tyrants.
Outside the allegations of crimes against humanity, there's another crisis somewhere on the horizon. These Egyptian migrant workers fled over the border from Libya, claiming mercenaries were firing indiscriminately. If the violence gets worse, a refugee crisis wouldn't be a surprise. It's unclear from the speech how concerned Gaddafi is about issues like this, though it certainly bothers very large numbers of people across Libya who showed their disgust at the Gaddafi address in the strongest terms. The threats and the pleas for unity were never going to cut any ice with much of a population who have heard it all before for decades. Gaddafi asked the people, if they love him, to take to the streets and take on the greasy rats of the opposition. Otherwise, he said, America could occupy Libya like Afghanistan. Worryingly for the protesters, he also brandished his famous Green Book, pointing out that enemies of the country should be put to death. He did also mention the words constitutional reform at one point, but somehow it was all lost in the noise. So that was that. He had spoken. He clearly expects Libya to stand by him. In the end, he remains prepared to blame anybody, almost everybody in fact, but himself for Libya's problems. Lawrence Lee, Al Jazeera.
Well, Colonel Gaddafi is fast losing the support of his own people. Diplomats have been resigning from across the world. Now, General Abdel Fattah Yunus, the Libyan Interior Minister, has also renounced his post. He's urging the army to join the People's Revolution.
In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, a special announcement for the February 17 revolution. I, General Abdel Fattah Yunus al-Abaidi, have resigned all my posts in response to the revolution of February 17th, in my total conviction and firm belief that it is faithful and legitimate demands. I urge all the armed forces to be at the service of the people of the revolution of February 17th to help them achieve victory.
Let's just bring you the latest pictures from Libyan state television. These show pro-Gaddafi, pro-government supporters in the streets of the capital, waving flags and, of course, holding pictures of their leader post his speech, obviously a few hours ago, showing jubilant scenes, really, supporting everything that he had to say. Those are the latest pictures coming from state television being broadcast live within Libya. Well, let's join Cal Perry. He's one of our correspondents in Malta, where, if we keep on the military theme that we just heard the Interior Minister resign, this will all make sense. Now, Cal, when we spoke to you, less than about 12, 15 hours ago, of course, a great deal of confusion as to what was going on in Malta. We have a naval vessel nearby or approaching the island. We also have military jets that had landed and colonels defecting.
That's right. It was about 24 hours ago when those two military jets landed here. They said they were ordered to bomb the protesters. They said they were not willing to do so. They flew here instead. This island, Churchill called it the unsinkable aircraft carrier. That's really what it is. It's the entry point in and out of
We seem to have a slight technical problem there with the technology, but that's not a problem. We'll try and get back to Cal in Malta shortly to give us an update of what's going on, certainly with those military naval vessels and the jets there that have landed, 24 hours ago. In the last few hours, the United Nations Security Council has released a statement on the situation in Libya, condemning the use of violence. For more on this, let's go to my colleague Shihab Ratansi in our Washington News Centre. Shihab.
Thanks, Sahel. Yes, it took a nearly 3-hour closed-door meeting to come up with that statement. It called on those responsible for attacks on civilians to be held accountable. Let's hear more from the Brazilian ambassador to the UN, who read the statement on behalf of the Security Council.
The members of the Security Council expressed grave concern at the situation in Libya. They condemned the violence and use of force against civilians, deplored the repression against peaceful demonstrators, and expressed deep regret at the death of hundreds of civilians. They called for an immediate end to the violence and for steps to address the legitimate demands of the population, including through national dialogue. The members of the Security Council